was a cat when I and whenever I was writer in residence for West Texas A&M, I I feel like I lived in Canyon. It's 17 miles away from Amarillo, and because I ate lunch there and everything. And I think I based 5 books onto that the cafes and you know, just the way they I mean, you know, the cowboys have been working. They have a lot of feedlots and they're moving cattle and they come in to eat and they're, you know, want to know what's on their boots. and they sit down and eat 2 meals because they're starving and they've been up since 5 o'clock and I usually lean over and say, may I take a picture? And they go, yeah. And they all pose for it, but it's kind of funny. When I was working on the ranch, the Bright's Ranch is a Stanford ranch. And when I was working there, the boys that were working the cattle wouldn't talk to me and just sort of ignored me. And I was around and sometimes they'd tell me, get out of the way. But then I did that walk in the land and it showed pictures of them. And then they thought they were movie stars. So they wanted to tell me all their stories. And that was nice. But again, there were maybe 30 and they'd been working since sunup and it was almost 1 o'clock and they were heading into the bunkhouse and I was doing something else and I was the last one in and they were all standing around and I said, you guys need to eat, you know, and they go, no, ma'am, you go first. And that's the way it is. The Stanford Ranch is an old ranch in the Panhandle and it's not flat land, it's kind of rolling, you know, and it's fun to ride over it. They put me in an ATV and he said, to give you an idea how big it is, he said, if you go too fast, if you go along here, there's no roads here. And if you want to look at the land, that's fine. But if you flip this little thing, he says, go walk to a windmill because we will circle the windmills first looking for you. And then I drove off at 5 miles an hour and he said, forget what I said. You're not going to flip it at 5 miles an hour. But it was fun just driving and going on and just sitting under a spring, a natural spring, listening to the windmill and the wind. Sometimes it's almost like you can go back in time. Most of them that I come up with, the editor changes because she's got a better idea than I do. Sometimes I just name it one word. And because the story, it's hard to come up with a title. For me, that's harder than writing the book. I just turned in Strawberry, which is called Strawberry Lane. And I am working right now, but I was before you called, and I'm working on. I'm calling it Lavender, but it's going to be about a bookstore. And last night I was thinking, and it's owned by a man who is afraid to live, but he loves to listen to people, and he's decided nobody does what they want to do because everybody's always saying, I wish I'd done this or something. And so that's how I'm just starting him. All of the stories are about either a cafe or a dining hall or a kitchen or a bed and breakfast. And sometimes I get hungry I was like, "Oh, okay, I gotta get up and go eat something because I get hungry." But I like that because people who like to cook, they like to make people happy. They make the good ones really do. And I had a kid in there that kind of gets kicked out of home the day he graduates from high school. And his story goes from being just graduating from high school through his life, and now he's the sheriff. And I had fun with him because he went from nothing to building a life, and the people that helped him and in the background more than he even knew. Yeah. So I sometimes the character just kind of follows me around.